Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, ethics exceptions. Also, the V-Team takes a look at a lottery and who's in and who's out for 2018.
What's my fortune? You've been reading the cards, haven't you?
I've been doing the accounts.
Come on, read my future for me.
You haven't got any.
So, what else is there to say? All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Hi, guys.
Well, the shenanigans never stop. They can leave town, but the town never leaves them. This week, former acting finance director Bill Newton went before the Ethics Commission and asked that he can start his own consulting business, Beth.
Consulting, is that what we're calling it?
Consulting business outside or before the 2-year revolving door statute is up on him being able to lobby. He's not lobbying.
Right, we're not lobbying, we're just consulting with people about how to get their projects moved through the government process. That's lobbying by another name. This is ridiculous. I hope the Ethics Commission sees through it.
Well, Susan, they've postponed any ruling on it until August, but it seems like this is just another one of those lawmakers and former lawmakers who want to use their experience to make more money, and the Ethics Commission's got to stand up, or either we need to get rid of them.
And I tell you, something that's very telling to me with the Ethics Commission on this is you said it's postponed until August. Apparently, this started in April. So they've been postponing it all this time, which makes me think they're a little leery of trying to do this. This doesn't exactly smell right, which is what their job is to keep investigating.
Jack, how can Judge Fielding and the rest of these guys say, oh, it's okay for you to consult?
You watch them. You just watch them.
You think they
watch
will?
him and Butch Ellis and Charlie Price are all going to say, oh, it's okay. Because they're all doing the same thing.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, but these laws don't apply to them.
No, I know that, because they're ethics commissioners.
They're the most ethical.
Now, maybe they're putting it off because the longer they put it off, they can say, well, Bill, now it's been a year. We think it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. It reminds me of, is it Phil Williams who has all of those legal clients that he represents because they're exempt? So it's the same thing. It's just lobbying by another name.
Well, and these lawyers, they should have to report their clients too. It's the same deal.
And if they do this, this sets precedent, which you might as well just take the Revolving Door Act and throw it out the window.
Yeah, well, they never meant for this. They never meant for the ethics laws to mean what they mean.
Yeah. They never meant we thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
They never meant for them to apply to them, just everybody else.
Of course not. Well, it's just kind of sad that they just keep hammering away. And look, you know, they may turn Bill Newton into a unicorn. He is the exception. Yeah. And if they do, then it becomes the rule, right?
Right.
The guy that approved all the state contracts.
Yeah, hundreds of millions, Jack. Hundreds of millions.
Can't imagine where he'd get his client base from.
No.
Nothing there.
All right, well, something
Nothing to see here, folks.
Craig Ford keeps pounding a drum that everybody ought to get in line with, and that is let the people vote on a lottery. We are pretty sure that Governor Kay Ivey is going to call a special session. It would take just a short period of time to put a CA in there, and let's pass it to let people vote. Susan?
It's about time. This is our only window for the next umpteen years to get this done. We got a special, and just look at what we're going to have to call special over. Prisons.
Can't afford them.
Can't afford them. Hole in Medicaid.
Can't afford it.
Yeah. And what's the third one?
Roads and bridges.
Roads and bridges. Can't afford
we
those
don't
either.
need those.
But, we don't need a lottery. I think this is time that we need to address that, along with some of these other issues, to fix our budget once and for all.
Well, Jack, they say it's a bad way to fund government, but there's not funding government's even worse, I guess.
Well, the whole thing is that none of them have the courage. I was going to say something else, but cojones, pelotas, to pass a tax. Now they're tinkering with the gas tax and things like that people really don't feel. The only thing that concerns me about gas tax is when those crazy Mideast people go up on the oil, what's that going to do?
Yeah,
that's my only worry. But yeah, they don't have the courage to pass the tax. I think the lottery is a very logical and reasonable method of bringing in a lot of the revenue that we need.
And it's not like we're asking the legislature to vote up or down. We're asking them to give a CA, which is polling at 80% positive out there in the rural areas.
Let the people vote.
Exactly.
If they vote it down, great. If they vote it up, great.
Just let them vote.
It doesn't matter. But since when do we want a bunch of these guys telling us how to live our life? We don't want them to do it.
Absolutely not.
But they love doing it, right, Beth?
And people get mad and they say we're all tax and spend liberals, but all I've seen is a bunch of borrow and spend conservatives. And the truth is, a lottery is an elective way to fund the government. If you don't like it, don't play it. And it helps us generate some revenue in a way that we don't put the burden on the backs of people who can't spare the cost.
Well, they'll say that this is the burden on the least, the people with the least amount of money. But we already have gaming in Alabama.
And we have one of the most regressive tax structures in the country. So if we want to start talking about not putting a burden on the least of these, then maybe we need to go and look at our whole tax code, because we certainly do that.
Well, it's not that the state government cares about women and children and minorities. It's just they don't care that much.
The flaw of the Republicans is that they want to pass laws to protect people from themselves. And that's what the lottery is. If I go out there and I mortgage my house and I run up a tab and I lose my house, so be it. That was my personal choice.
Whether it's legal in Alabama or not, you got the casinos, you got the Porch Creek casinos, they can gamble there. Not having a lottery here only means that they're going to drive to Georgia, Tennessee, or Mississippi.
Every time I cross the state line, I buy a lottery ticket or 10.
Our neighbors said, fine, you're not going to have a lotto in Alabama. I'll just keep driving across the line.
Well, and these are church-going folks, too.
Exactly.
And it's not just, it really has become silly. Let the people vote is a very simple prospect. I want to get to this next bit, but we'll have to pick it up after the break. There's a lot of folks that are not running, and we think there's some folks that are going to be out in 2018. And one of them, Beth, I know is somebody that you cherish their leadership, and that's Billy Canary over at BCA. We hear that they are pushing him out the door as fast as they can. I hope that's true.
Well, I hope the door don't hit him where the good Lord split him, because he can go on with a haste as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Jack, we keep hearing this. Of course, we've heard it for 3 years or more, but what do you think?
When he is packed up and gone, I'll believe it. I think that their board or whoever runs that organization, to keep him around is not doing themselves a service.
No.
Because he is losing clout in the legislature daily.
That's right.
And he's making more and more enemies in the legislature and the leadership as well. And he failed in most of the policies that he was trying to get done this last session, and I think it's coming back to bite him, and it should.
Well, listen, as we've said many times, if you didn't get Hubbard and the Rileys and Canary out, Alabama had no chance for the future. But we're going to have to leave it right there. We'll pick this back up after the break. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Canary's out. We hope.
Bye then.
the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Beth, you were remembering an article that you wrote a year ago. Let's share that.
Yeah, you know how Facebook kind of pops up with your memories and stuff, and it reminded me that this day last year, I wrote the article about how there are no friends in politics and how Mike Hubbard's friend defense was basically baloney. And, you know, because him and Billy Canary are such good friends, I said that I would write Hubbard a love letter every single day that he and Billy Canary kept up their weekly meetings from the penitentiary, because if it has nothing to do with Hubbard being speaker, they'll want to stay in touch and all and keep up. So.
They're friends.
Yes,
Right.
I do not recall Billy Canary. Is that who you're referring to?
The one where, you know, our children are friends, you know, we've been to
Yeah,
each other's
yeah,
homes.
yeah.
I wonder if he's going to visit him.
I don't know, but I'm more than happy to visit Mike in prison and see how he's doing. And really, seriously, I'd be happy to meet him. Maybe he'll see the error of his ways. So far, that ain't happening. There are some senators that are not running. There's some House members that are not running. I think some of them have left because they just had enough. You know, Senator Dick Brubaker's out. Mm-hmm. Senator Paul Sanford says he's out. Gerald Dial, senator, says he's out. Rusty Glover's out. Phil Williams out. I think, you know, and I talked to Senator Brubaker, and he said, it's just time. It's just time. And I said, well, we need you in state government. He said, well, I don't know. I don't know.
Dick is
Right.
a good guy, and he doesn't mind bucking the system.
Right.
And he's very smart, and he's honorable, I think, as is Paul Sanford,
Yeah.
who was my client and friend for the last 8 years. I'm really sorry to see him not run, but he always said, I want to be a citizen lawmaker, run for like 2 terms and then leave. It's exactly what he's doing. Of course, Dial and Jimmy Holly, a lot of institutional knowledge there.
Well, and as you brought up, Pittman also term limited himself, even though he's running for Senate.
And Phil Williams, I think, I don't know, did he have a heart awakening?
Change of heart.
Change of heart.
Same thing with Rep. Jack Williams, too, like with him saying he's not running again. Sounds like the Matt Hart, you go and you don't come back story.
Well, we don't know that, but we certainly hope.
I mean, it just rings because they've both been, you know, they've had some shady goings on.
Alan Booth leaving.
Alan Booth's leaving. Alan Harper.
And not a minute too soon on that thug.
On Alan Harper.
Yeah.
But will his mustache follow?
Well, it might. It's pretty big.
You have no
to
idea.
get a trailer.
Turn it sideways to get it through the door.
I think he's got some problems too. But it's interesting. These guys like now Will Ainsworth, I think he's stepping down, so he's going to run for lieutenant governor.
They call him ain't worth it in his district. And I think that's the funniest thing in the world.
That's wrong. Will's a good guy. Leave him alone. You're mean.
Will is
I just
a good
think it's
guy.
funny.
The funniest that's not running is Barry Moore. It's like,
Barry Moore's running for Congress.
Yeah.
He's the
Yeah.
candidate to run against Martha Roby.
Yeah, when we're talking about serious candidates, you'll get back to me.
Yeah, and he may have a chance in
He
that
does.
race.
I think he does.
There was supposedly a Republican meeting in Autauga County the other day, and they had a show of hands who voted for Martha the first time, and all the hands went up. Who's going to vote for her again? Not one hand.
Yeah, she's being punished for that Trump comment she made. Well, we are seeing some changes in the House. Speaker Mac McCutcheon has appointed Representative Mike Jones, as Rules Chair after Alan Booth, stepped down. Susan, what do you think?
Well, according to what I'm hearing, Alan Booth stepped down as Rules Chair for the last year because he's not running, so that whoever he picked, which is now Mike Jones, would have a year with Booth still there to be able to warm up to the position before going into the next quadrennium, which I think is a good idea.
And we don't know anything about Mike Jones, other than he was the head of the judiciary, was going forward with the impeachment of Bentley. But Beth, I do have some concerns because there was talk, and it was serious talk, that they were going to have someone run against Speaker McCutcheon because he wouldn't give BCA and the road builders their way last session. And Mike Jones ran against Mac. Is this a placate
Well, he really
him?
didn't. I don't think he actually mounted a campaign, did he?
Well, I don't know
Mac
what he
McCutcheon.
mounted. Might have mounted a donkey.
As long as
for
he
all
does it
I
behind
know.
closed doors in the privacy of his own home, it's not my problem.
Anyway, before we got in the gutter, I think he did run. I don't know if
Yeah.
he mounted a campaign.
Well, and maybe appointing him Rules, which is the most coveted chairmanship in the legislature, kind of preempted him to run against Mac next time.
Maybe. You know what, Susan, I just think these guys don't like that Mac is fair. I think they want a dictator that when BCA or Alpha walks in there and says, I want this, he goes, okay, you got it.
Well, because for a lot of these people, I mean, let's not forget, 2018's right around the corner. And when you start looking at those campaign finance reports, we're in the fundraising window right now. They're going to want that Alpha check. They're going to want the BCA check. They're going to want the Blue Cross check. And so if you've got a speaker that's not letting those bills come up or not letting them get to the floor the way that they need to be voted on, these lawmakers aren't able to do their part to get the check. Not that it would be a quid pro quo or anything, but we all know how this works. I mean, they've got to be able to do the bidding if they're going to keep getting the money.
Well, I think that having a fair speaker, it makes more sense than having one that's a sellout. So,
and a lot of these legislators, the truth be known, don't want to make their own decisions. They don't want to they want somebody to guide them because they don't really want to pay that much attention to it, just to be honest.
That's sort of cold, Susan.
Well, it's true. I mean, I've seen legislators get up and read their own bills, and they were reading the wrong one.
Well, and you know what, though? There is a revival coming. The tents are being packed up and ready to go. Nancy Worley, the chair of the Democratic Party, has said, we're having a revival, and the Democrats are coming back, Beth.
Okay. Well, for those of us who never left, for us it's a little bit insulting saying we're going to have a revival. Last week we had 65 young Democrats in Montgomery fired up and ready to go. We've got people organized all around the state. So to come in and say we're going to have a revival, we're revived. Where have you been? Like, what's going on? So let's get it together.
I think she ought to do it in the fall when it's corn dog season at all the state fairs, so she can travel around and try those sausage sandwiches and corn dogs.
Hey, what about those?
And I'm all for it. Look at me. I mean,
what about those fried Twinkies? I think those are good, right? Well, listen, I think the problem with the Democratic Party is not reviving it, it's getting new leadership.
Right. I mean, that party's been on life support for a hot minute, and we need just like a do not resuscitate order on the one we got, and let's start from scratch, and let's get clean leadership in that's young, that's vibrant, that will maybe speak up when the speaker gets indicted with 23 felonies, that will maybe say something about it and maybe help. Let's build some infrastructure to win a special election.
Well, one of the problems y'all have, though, is the National Democrat Party.
Right.
And all the candidates that run under the Democrat banner get tied to the Washington Democrats. That doesn't help your cause.
But we can't fix that, and y'all gonna have to run with Trump as your banner next, so we'll see how that works out.
I'm fine with that.
But my point is, like, we can't fix what's out of our control. What we can fix is the fact that we've got to do full steam ahead, 100%. I think the Democratic Party, the old guard at least, has never had to lead from the back.
Well, we're gonna have to leave it there. Nancy Worley coming to a community near you. Elmer Gantry becomes
with an appetite.
becomes Eileen Gantry. You're mean. All this and much, much more coming up next. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Jack, you and I were talking about this earlier. A billionaire investor named Franklin Haney is from Tennessee. He owns some property over here as well. He has put together a group that has purchased the Bellefonte nuclear facility north of Scottsboro. It has never operated. It was started building in the 70s. They abandoned it basically in place in 98. Why would Mr. Haney want...
Well, he's named Mr. Haney. Mr. Douglas, you want to buy this here piece of land? Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, what's his motivation?
Well, remember, this is the same guy who bought that building in Birmingham, right? The big Social Security building for like umpteen $1 million. And then they traced it back and found that he had given money to all these political campaigns. But basically, if I remember correctly, he bought the building that the city owned and then leased it back to the city, which I don't know a whole lot about real estate, but when you start thinking, like, I'm going to take something that I own and then I'm going to start paying you to...
Well,
it doesn't make sense.
And this guy is very smart, and he's made a lot of money doing just that. John Archibald and Kyle Whitmire called him the government's landlord. And so he wants to buy the Belfonte plant, or he's bought the Belfonte plant.
Which is inoperable, by the way.
Right. And in 98, they started selling off all the pieces. Susan, your dad used to work on it. He helped build that plant.
He did help build it. He started with the TVA project in outside of Athens with the Browns Ferry project, and then he went on to the Belfonte project later. And as time went on, my dad finally had to, get out and quit because he realized that the materials they were using were not strong enough to do what they were
he didn't feel it was
anticipating.
good.
And so he, on his conscience, he couldn't do it, so he had to get out.
Well, Beth, Tennessee Valley Authority, which owns Belfonte or owned it, said that they did not see a need for more nuclear power right now, and so they abandoned the project and just wanted to sell it off or something. And a lot of people are talking about how this is a great economic opportunity, but if you don't have a need for more nuclear power, where's the opportunity?
It's kind of like, I got these shoes on sale. They're just like the 7 other pair I have, but they were on sale. Like, it's kind of the same thing. If we don't need it, it's not an asset at that point. And
the history about Belfonte, I'll tell you where it would be an economic boom is in the medical industry, because every time they tried to fire that thing up, the bell cracked. And so you're talking about we're possible leak here.
Well, that it's just never going. I mean, it's never been up. TVA opened up a plant a couple of years ago. Of course, they had to redo everything because of that giant disaster that happened in Japan, Beth. I mean, that was a scary thing. And
3 Mile Island.
Jack, I don't want to. We live close enough to Scottsboro. We could get singed.
Yeah, you could.
I don't know. I don't like the idea of private investment groups owning nuclear facilities any more than I like terrorists having dirty bombs. It just scares me. But, maybe that's an exaggeration. Jack, we know, and people were surprised to hear, that the Lee County grand jury is still impaneled. And about 4 weeks ago, they had a big powwow down there.
Well, I'm not aware of that, Bill, but have you got somebody on a stakeout?
Well, of course we do. I mean, people around here can't go to lunch without us finding out that what they had for lunch.
Well, I'm sure they're probably still impaneled because there are probably a lot of unanswered questions. That Mike Hubbard trial took a long time.
Yeah.
They interviewed, hundreds of people? And maybe there's some, residue left they need to clean up. So I can understand that.
Is that what you call the stench coming from Lee County, Beth? Residue?
I think we called it manure, but
Well, I mean, you still have,
school.
it looked at one point like Gene Sisson and
Sonny
Reagan might have been in some trouble. And it has to be related in some way to the Hubbard case because that's why they were impaneled, right?
Right. I mean, I would think so, but I mean, I know that at least I haven't been hearing of people getting subpoenaed down there and having to go testify the way that they were when the Hubbard trial was at its peak. So maybe it's just that they're there just because in case something does come back up. But I mean, these poor grand jurors, bless their hearts, they've been doing this for 2-3 years now, it seems like. I mean,
yeah,
well,
they
they're
don't meet
probably
all the
sick
time.
of it.
No, they don't. This was just, they were down there a couple 3 weeks ago. So we're listen, they're not there for no reason. Is that how we can say that? There have been a lot of endorsements this week, a lot of action on the Senate side. We've got some polling that shows that Luther Strange, Jack, is at 20%, that Mo Brooks has risen up to 16% and rising, and that Roy Moore is hanging in there at 32%. Now, you think that's more ceiling?
I definitely think it's a ceiling, and I'm not sure it's that high. But these people are polling it, so maybe they're right. I would see Roy at like 23%. Maybe I'm dead wrong, but I think it's hard to keep Roy Moore out of a runoff, and it's hard to keep Luther Strange out of a runoff. I think the rest of the field is fighting for third place.
Beth, did you see Luther Strange shooting his silencer?
Oh my goodness. And I wound up yelling at the TV saying, what in the world the NRA does not endorse? Because he's touting his NRA endorsements, and the NRA doesn't give endorsements to my knowledge. They give you a rating.
And he has an A+.
Right, and so does Craig Ford, who will tell you if you talk to him for more than 5 minutes.
Right, Craig Ford's Democrat.
But I mean, like, they give you, it's based on like your voting history and your answers to these polling questions, and they give you a grade, but it's not an endorsement. They can endorse because of their tax status. So just again, him stretching the truth, kind of like he did with his fake headlines and the other one. And
Well, the thing that gets me is why even run an ad like that? I don't think people in Alabama. Well, I think people in Alabama are always concerned gun rights might be taken away. But with a Republican president who loves the NRA and a Republican House and a Republican Senate, they're in any danger of Second Amendment being under assault.
Well, his last ad didn't work out that well.
Well,
Luther Strange is...
and he gave another one that's last week and said we're about to build the wall. I think that wall is about as far away from being built as I am about growing 3 more feet.
I think, we're going to get a little picket fence, and they're going to say, yes, it's a wall, and 99% of America is never going to go down to look at it, and they'll just tell us it's a wall, and everybody will believe it's a wall because that's where we're at
we'll
these
get
days.
something.
Yeah, it's going to be a little picket fence.
That's what started it. What's what started Trump's
Jackson, you cannot build a wall in the middle of a river. There's a river.
Well, it's not going through the river, Beth. It's going along the river.
That's privately owned property. I'm just confused. So I don't know.
Have you ever heard of eminent domain?
I want to see.
Shall we gather at the river? Shall we gather at the river?
I want to
That's
see
what I've got
Luther
to
Strange
say.
actually shoot the gun through the bullseye, though, because it shows him pull the trigger and then it cuts scene to the target. I want to see him actually hit the bullseye.
Wasn't he shooting Obamacare?
No, I think there was at least one that he was shooting a target, but maybe his other one he was shooting.
I think if you give him a tennis racket, he'd do a lot better.
I think he would
than if
too.
you gave him a gun with a silencer on it.
Well, it depends on who owns that silencer company.
Gracious.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us, because we watch them.